Hello and welcome to the F1 News Zone, the show round up all the biggest stories in Formula 1 right now. We are currently in the Hungarian Grand Prix weekend, so let's have a look at which stories have been making the headlines in Budapest. This week, Jos Verstappen has denied that he has anything to do with Christian Horner's sacking from Red Bull Racing. McLaren has defended Lando Norris after criticism for his performance during the Belgian Grand Prix weekend, and we review all of the action from qualifying on Saturday afternoon at the Hungarian Grand Prix. Some real shock results there. Stay with us to the end of the show to find out all about that. But if you are watching on YouTube, skip to the timestamps in the video description below to see the story that you are most interested in. So, without further ado, let's dive in. We need to talk about the grid walk interview of Jos Verstappen before the Belgian Grand Prix, guys. So, for those that don't know, on Sky Sports F1 coverage in the UK and for a lot of places around the world, Martin Brundle, ex-Formula 1 driver, current legend of the commentating world in Formula 1, he always goes up and down the grid trying to get the gossip, trying to get the scoops, interviewing the celebrities, the drivers, the mechanics, whoever, right? And in this case, he spoke to Jos Verstappen, who was very interestingly on the grid for Belgium this week. And of course, Jos has not really been present that much this season in the F1 paddock. Now, we covered that story a while ago for you guys, and the official reason he said is basically because he's too busy with his racing commitments, and also that his partner, his girlfriend, is not very well at the moment, which may well be true, and I don't want to say is not true, but very interesting how he was at Belgium this weekend, the first race after Christian Horner was sacked by Red Bull. Now, again, people might say, well, maybe his girlfriend is better now. Maybe with it being so close to home, of course, Netherlands being right next door to Belgium. And of course, the Verstappens are tied to Spa. It's effectively their old local track over in Belgium. Of course, Max was actually born in Belgium. So the doubters of that theory may well say, well, you know, it's just next door. Of course, he's going to appear, but it's very interesting. But for me, the proof will be in the Hungarian pudding next week. And if Jos Verstappen is at that race, then I think that will, for me, all but confirm really that he was avoiding Christian Horner, that he was not welcome in the Red Bull garage perhaps while Christian Horner was there. Now, Horner is of course gone. He was sacked. We don't know why he was sacked officially. Horner claims that he doesn't know why he was sacked. Whether that is true or not, we're never going to know. We're never going to officially know the proper reason, because the people that are involved with this are always going to keep tight-lipped. There might be NDAs, there might be all sorts of stuff stopping these people from officially confirming or denying any of the rumours. But what Brundle said, what Brundle got out of Verstappen, and what in particular Nico Rosberg as well, because Brundle had backup. He brought Nico Rosberg with him, of course, the 2016 Formula 1 world champion, very successful driver during his time. He brought backup, you know, there was a two-pronged attack on Jos Verstappen. Let me just go through exactly what was said, and I'm going to give my thoughts on this, because for me, what wasn't said and what was said was very, very juicy. I think it does, for me, really add credence to a lot of the theories around why Horner was let go of and what is going to happen with Max Verstappen in the near future at Red Bull Racing. So, Brundle opened the interview by saying, big changes in the team. Are you and Max and everybody happy where it's going so far? Now, when Brundle said big changes in the team, Verstappen was kind of acting like, no, what? What are you talking about? He was trying to act oblivious to it. But then Brundle, when he was more specific, Verstappen knew he had to respond. And Jos said, well, they decided to change, so I'm fine with everything, so long as it works. And then Rosberg, man came out of nowhere. He was diving in. He was going for the scoop, like he was going for a fresh bit of ice cream. He was there with the scoop. He was ready. He was ready to really dig in this one. He absolutely went totally direct. Fair play to him, right? The man has no fear whatsoever. Rosberg said, last year you said Horner needs to go. And then Jos responded by saying, that was 1.5 years ago. It's different. I have nothing to say. It's fine. And Rosberg then replied, now you're quiet. And Jos said, I'm always quiet. So, first of all, Jos Verstappen claiming that he's always quiet is the biggest load of baloney I have ever heard. That man is anything but quiet. He is always in the press, or he was always in the press, saying things about Red Bull, saying things about his son, right? He is not always quiet, not by any stretch of the imagination. You compare him to other racing dads, even the likes of Anthony Hamilton, who's always been by the sides of Sir Lewis, you know, relatively quiet compared to Jos Verstappen. We always know about Jos because he is always there, right? He is always giving his opinion on Formula One, in particular his son. He's always defending him. He's always speaking about Red Bull. He is not quiet. That is just not true whatsoever. But he is right. He's being quiet now. He's being quiet now. I think there is something there. I really do think there is something there, and he doesn't want to speak about it. He's not allowed to speak about it. What's done is done, and now they can move on. I also think as well, and I said this at the time, I do think that Max Verstappen is going to stay at Red Bull. I think they've got rid of Christian Horner because of the pressure from the likes of Marco, the Verstappens, the Austrian side of the business, really. And also the downturn in results probably added fuel and credence to the fire, really, and kind of pushed the Thai side of the business because it's basically 50-50, I think, or 51-49 between Austria and Thailand. And the Thais obviously were aligned with Christian Horner, but that probably made them realise, you know what, we can't really justify his position at this point. We got to get rid. And I do think the noise from the likes of Jos Verstappen and Helmut Marko as well, that probably did kind of push them over the edge, really. And now he doesn't want to talk about it. It's done. He got his way. They can move on. I just find it so interesting. I really do find this so juicy, this story. And the way that Jos did speak about this, I didn't really say much about it. I think that does... Just if you go back and watch the interview, I can't show you the interview because it will get copyrighted and this video will get taken down and demonetized and all that bad stuff, really, you know. Which is fair enough. That is Sky Sports' copyright and Formula One's copyright. Not going to infringe on that. That's their right to do that. But go and watch it, right? Look, it's not just what he said, but it's his mannerisms, the way he's speaking. He didn't want to talk about it at all. Either because he couldn't or he didn't want to. What's done is done. He's got his way. They move on. And I bet you anything, right? I bet you anything. Jos is going to be pretty much ever present in the paddock for the rest of the season. And that speaks volumes. I know maybe it's possible that his partner has been unwell and he's been focusing on other things, but he was there all the time for Max for the longest time. And this year, for the first half, he's just not been there. Just feel like something happened. He's either been banned, discouraged, insulted. We don't know what's happened behind closed doors, but let's be real here, guys. It's drama. It really, really is drama. And genuinely, it was a pretty drab race on the whole. It really was terrible for the most part. Genuinely, that 30-second interview is probably the most eventful thing that happened this entire weekend at Spa. And I say that as the biggest Spa lover in the world. I absolutely love the track. It's my favourite in the world. But my God, was it terrible this weekend. Very difficult watch. This, though, made it worth watching. Your thoughts in the comments below, guys. Am I reading too much into this? What was your thoughts on the interview? Go and watch it if you haven't already. Give your take in the comments below. So Lando Norris got second place during the Belgian Grand Prix, and he also got third place directly behind his teammate in the Spa sprint as well. But despite that, people are not happy with Lando Norris. He's coming under pressure. People call him a bottle job, making key mistakes. But what's the truth of all this, guys, and what has people been saying? Are they being too harsh on Norris? For the first time in his career, of course, he did win back-to-back races at Silverstone and Austria as well. So he's not really in terrible form, it is fair to say. But that championship gap is now up to 16 points. It was 8 before this Grand Prix weekend. So a long way to go, but you'd rather have that gap be smaller or non-existent if you were Norris. So overall, Belgium was very much a good weekend for Piastri. But let's have a look what people have been saying here, guys. Full article on the F1chronicle.com as always. Oscar Piastri is now 16 points clear at the top of the World Championship after passing pole-sitting McLaren teammate Lando Norris and winning a rain-delayed Belgian Grand Prix. While Max Verstappen and Red Bull slip further out of the title fight, they're out of it. I said this quite some time. I called it. It's going to be a McLaren Constructors, and it's also going to be one of the McLaren guys getting the driver's title. They're not in it. They're not in the title fight anymore. But anyway, all eyes are now on what is shaping up to be a head-to-head McLaren showdown for the 2025 crown. It is too early to talk about the situation in the championship, said Zak Brown, the CEO of McLaren. Max Verstappen should never be written off. I'm writing him off. So I don't see it. I don't see it. I cannot see how they're going to come back into this. But it's obviously great that we have such a good lead over the competition. This allows us to have our two drivers race each other. It's exciting for everyone. The more racing, the better. McLaren continues to resist outside pressure to implement clear team orders, letting the title contenders race freely. And at Spa, it was Piastri who struck first. Pole-sitter Norris has often been the quicker of the two over a single lap, but Piastri's calm and consistency, especially in tricky conditions, made the difference again. I mean, Oscar just did a great job. Nothing more to say, Norris said. Committed a bit more through Eau Rouge and had a slipstream and got the run. Nothing to complain of. He did a better job in the beginning, and that's what it was. Ralf Schumacher, speaking on Sky Deutschland, was less forgiving though. Lando still had the chance at the end because he was on the hard tyres. Piastri's were going off, but he made 3 mistakes, losing a second to each one of them. That is why that's exactly the 3 seconds he needed. A Hamilton or Verstappen wouldn't have made those mistakes, Schumacher added. Oscar was simply better. Norris accepted the result. Oscar deserved it today. Another one too. A well-deserved result for the team and for Oscar too. But, Herr Schumacher, as the famous phrase goes, catching is one thing, passing is another. Would Lando have got past Piastri even without those mistakes? Who knows? Maybe. But it was very difficult to overtake around Spa. Hamilton got stuck behind Albon for like the entire second half of the race. It was bizarre. We normally see overtaking around Spa being one of the easiest on the calendar, maybe because it was damp conditions. Even when they were on the slicks, there was still bits of water around the track. It would look like a cold, wet, miserable day in Belgium. It really, really did. A typical Spa day, even in summer. So I would say personally that I don't know if he even would have been able to catch and pass him even with those mistakes not being a thing. At the end of the day, it's not a disaster. You know, he's not like finishing 4th. 3rd, you know, they're still finishing 1-2. And when it comes to team orders, for me, there should absolutely not be any team orders from the McLaren. You know, we don't want it to happen, obviously, but it's possible that at some point they might hit each other again. We've already seen it. We saw Norris hit the back of Piastri at Canada. It's possible, right? And they could lose points with that. And it's bad. And you don't want that. But they're going to win the Constructors anyway. And let's be real here, guys, right? That's all McLaren really cares about. Really, that is all they care about. That's where the money's paid. That's where the success is for the team. Obviously, they want one of their drivers to win the Drivers' Championship. That's where the attention is. That's where the outside interest in Formula 1 is. Do you really care that Williams won the Constructors' Championship in 1986? No, you care that Alain Prost, driving a McLaren, won the Drivers' Championship. Do you really care that Ferrari won the Constructors' Championship in 2008? No, you care that Sir Lewis Hamilton won the Drivers' Championship. Tell that to Felipe Massa. I'm pretty sure he doesn't care that Ferrari won the Constructors in 08, but he definitely cares that he missed out on the title that year, so much so that the man is currently engaged in a lawsuit. Still, absolute bananas decision, but hey, you know, all power to him, I guess. But yeah, for me, absolutely no question there should be no team orders with McLaren. Let them race. Let them race. They've barely been battling each other. We've only really seen them battle each other properly in the start of this race, the very start, but after that Piastri was gone, and also during the Austrian Grand Prix as well. That's kind of been it. It's been very rare that they've actually been going at each other, you know. There's always been a bit of a gap there. There's not been quite enough to really, you know, get close to each other. So, yeah, for me, no questions, no team orders. Yes, opportunity missed for Lando Norris, for sure. He started on pole position, but Piastri in the race did a superb job. Lando Norris did everything he could. He went with the different tyres. He went with the hard tyres. He tried something different. It didn't work out. Keeping temperature, something that Ralph is very much skirting around here. And I know this is the job of a Formula 1 driver, not to go too in-depth with this, but for my unprofessional opinion when it comes to Formula 1 drivers, when it comes to this, it was a cold, wet day, like I said. You go a millimetre off the line, you're into the damp, you lose temperature in your tyres. Those hard tyres would have been much more difficult to keep the temperature in them. And I know, obviously, you have the temperature going after a few laps, but Spa has a lot of long straights. And even the corners, a lot of them are flat out. So keeping temperature in your rear tyres in particular, you know, going through... So keeping temperature in particularly rear tyres down these long straights, you know, going into the Kemmel, going down to Eau Rouge, going through the Blanchimont, you know, these are corners that and sections that your tyre temperatures are really going to be suffering on a cold day in this part of the world. By the way, if you've never been to Spa on one of these days, yes, it is the summer. Yes, it is July. It's cold though. When it rains there, it is freezing cold, even in the summer. Colder than the UK. Colder than Scotland, and that's saying something, trust me. You know, so for me, opportunity missed, but it's not a clanger. It's not a big fumble from Norris. he'll have another chance at Hungary, and he can eliminate that advantage effectively that Oscar Piastri pulled out, at least some of it anyway. So yeah, just when you think it can't get any worse for Alpine, just when you think a character like Flavio Briatore cannot be more dodgy and more deplorable than he is in Formula 1, just when you think things possibly cannot get any worse, Briatore has been linked to Jeffrey Epstein. Now, we're not going to talk about the conspiracy theories around Jeffrey Epstein, about the Epstein files specifically. We're just going to talk about Briatore and his links to the now deceased Jeffrey Epstein. We're going to leave it at that, because otherwise we'll be here for hours, right? Let's just keep it on Formula 1 here, because when I saw this first come out, I was like, seriously? Briatore? Of course he was rubbing shoulders with somebody like that, but to have it exposed like this, yeah, far from the best look. Really, really far from the best look. But let's have a look, guys. Full article on the F1Chronicle.com here as always, and I will give my opinion about it at the end as always. Flavio Briatore is under renewed scrutiny in Formula 1 amid fresh media investigations into his ties with Jeffrey Epstein and growing dysfunction at Alpine, where he serves as team advisor. A report from Unlimited Hangout, which I've read by the way, really, really fascinating article, definitely check it out if you get the chance, has linked Briatore to Epstein's social circles, citing his name in the late financier's so-called Black Book, alongside Jacques Villeneuve, Eddie Irvine and other F1 figures. No charges have been laid and Formula 1 has made no official comment, but the timing is awkward. Renault CEO Luca Di Maio, a key supporter of both the F1 project and Briatore's return, abruptly resigned recently. His replacement, Francois Provost, is yet to sign any commitment to Alpine's embattled race programme as Renault faces growing financial pressure. Meanwhile, rumours are swirling around Christian Horner, who was ousted by Red Bull recently. According to Sky Deutschland, Ralf Schumacher said, "I don't know if Horner will return. Sometimes things can change quickly." We also have the story of his assistant, Fiona, which was the subject of the investigation. She has apparently now been given a good position at Cadillac and will return to the paddock. Apparently this story will be brought before the court in January, Schumacher added, and I suspect that other teams are waiting for the investigation to be concluded. Nico Rosberg told Sky that Toto Wolff is incredibly afraid that Horner wants to become president of the FIA. That would be a nightmare for Wolff, without a doubt. I think that Horner, should start a 12th team or become head of Alpine. He has good relations with Flavio Briatore. Alpine driver Pierre Gasly, a former Red Bull protege, also weighed in. Christian has been very, very good at what he has done. I am sure we'll see him in some other team. Given Christian's vast experience and skills, I'm sure many teams will be interested in his services. On track, Alpine continues to underperform. Flavio Colapinto, well, I mean, those two are pretty close, aren't they? But I'm not going to go saying that they're related like that. Franco Colapinto, championed by Briatore, was spotted flying economy to Budapest, prompting speculation he may be slipping down the pecking order. Mundo Deportivo reported a flight attendant paused boarding to take a selfie with Colapinto, F2's Pepe Marti, and F3's Mari Boya. Briatore, speaking to Automotor und Sport, admitted, "If we survive Q1, we often make it to Q4. Yeah, Flavio has been linked to Jeffrey Epstein. Just when you think it can't get any worse, it does. Now, without going too in detail with the crimes, obviously you know what Jeffrey Epstein did back in the day. A thoroughly horrid human being. This article from Unlimited Hangout is an absolute goldmine of information. Epstein's brother, Alfredo Rodriguez, basically accused Donald Trump and Flavio Briatore as witnesses, as being witness to the trafficking crimes, you know which trafficking crimes I'm talking about here, that Jeffrey Epstein was involved in, and evidently didn't do anything about it. Now, unfortunately, Rodriguez is not available to comment on this because he passed away in prison in 2015. But like the article says on F1Chronicle.com and also on Limited Hangout as well, Briatore does allegedly appear in the Black Book, as does President Donald Trump. But let's just keep it focused on Briatore here. And this is also related to Naomi Campbell. Of course, Campbell was engaged to Flavio Briatore. I think it was late 90s, early 2000s. And she did fly on the infamous Epstein plane as well. Briatore was the one who allegedly introduced her to Jeffrey Epstein in the first place. And of course, after Briatore, she moved on to who? P. Diddy. And we all know what he was alleged to have done, although I believe he's been cleared of that now, somehow. And like I said, there's all kinds of nefarious allegations with what went on between Briatore and Epstein as well. Campbell also being witness to some of this too. It is nasty. It is really, really nasty. And I'm not going to cover it in this video. This video would go on for far too long. And to be honest with you, it would have to be heavily censored with some of the platforms we put these out on. But if you want to see me go through that article, do a deep dive into it and give my kind of thoughts on it, I'm happy to do so. You know, like I said, this just came out today. I believe this article was published. It's a real expose. It's a real scoop of some horrible things. And if any of it's true between Epstein and Briatore, I would be shocked if Briatore sticks around in Formula One for much longer. This is a guy that is, you know, intertwined with all kinds of scandals throughout his entire career in Formula One over the last 30 years, both racing and non-racing as well. So it would not be out of character at all for this guy. Let's not forget as well, he was a convicted felon. He was in prison in Italy for fraud. I know, shockingly, Flavio Briatore being done for fraud. Who would have seen that coming? But he escaped from prison and eventually, you know, got involved with Benetton, and that's how he got big in Formula One, you know, for the sponsorship of the Enstone team. Well, he's still Alpine to this day, you know, it's been gone through many, many guises in the past. But yeah, fascinating stuff, scary stuff as well. Get your thoughts in the comments below on this, guys. What do you think about these rumours? Are they true? Are they not? Would you like to see me go more in depth with them? Would you like me to go through that article? Because it's a long, long one. It would take a long time. It'd be a bit of a special if it was. And yeah, I'd have to be careful with what I said and everything like that. But yeah, your thoughts in the comments below. I appreciate it as always, guys. Wow, what a incredible qualifying session we have had for the Hungarian Grand Prix today. It seemed as though it was going to go one way, but it went completely another. Some huge shocks throughout qualifying today around the Hungaroring, guys. Let's have a look at it. Let's have a look at the 5 things that we learned ahead of tomorrow's Hungarian Grand Prix race. So we're going to start with some negatives. First of all, Yuki Tsunoda. He seemed as though he got a bit of pace around Spa-Francorchamps. Of course, no points to show for his efforts there, but he did manage to qualify in the top 10 for that Grand Prix, so there was, of course, some optimism around. However, that optimism was very much faded. He was out in Q1 again this time around, and yeah, not great. P16, I do believe he starts for tomorrow's race. He was knocked out effectively by Liam Lawson, the guy who he has replaced at the Red Bull Racing team. Not only that as well, but Isaac Hadjar in a Racing Bull managed to get P3 in Q1, and all the other 3 Red Bull drivers, Lawson, Hadjar and Max Verstappen, managed to get through to Q3, albeit 8th, 9th and 10th. Not the best session really at all for Red Bull today, and that was really compounded by Yuki Tsunoda's performance as well. So we'll see what happens there, but it's a very much a bad look, unfortunately, for the Japanese driver. As well, also a bad look as well, Alex Albon, dead last. I mean, we knew that Williams were going to struggle around here. They were looking pretty shaky for the most part in practice. They've said this is one of their bogey tracks this season alongside Barcelona, but I don't think he was expecting to be last. And around a track where it is very difficult to overtake, it's going to be a long, long Sunday for Albon, unfortunately, tomorrow. So, yeah, not great at all. And also disappointing. 3 disappointments to start. But don't worry, some positive towards the end. The last 2 are very positive. Big disappointment as well for Sir Lewis Hamilton, out in Q2. The first time he has ever failed to qualify in the top 10. I believe his worst qualifying around here before was P7. So it's a really, really bad effort, unfortunately, for him. There is clearly pace in that Ferrari car, as we will get onto very soon. Don't worry about that. But yeah, he'll be disappointed with that, no doubt. There's still a chance of decent points from there, especially given his pace at the Belgian Grand Prix last time out. And also because his teammate Charles Leclerc qualified on pole. Where did that come from? Leclerc was in P3 in FP1, 2 and 3 every practice session, but there was always a big gap between him and the McLarens at the front. It seemed as though McLaren were going to qualify comfortably for pole position this time around today. No, not the case at all. Charles Leclerc pulled out an absolute rabbit from the hat, a real magic trick, an absolute belter of a lap around Hungary. His 27th pole position in Formula 1, I think they were saying. His pole position to win conversion rate is extremely poor. He'll be hoping to make that a little bit better tomorrow. He came into this weekend saying this is one of his worst tracks on the calendar. He doesn't know why, but he always performs badly here. Not going off with this evidence though. Really impressive, incredible lap. I hope he can keep it. I would love to see Ferrari get an actual Grand Prix win this season. You know, McLaren are absolutely walking it at the moment, and Ferrari have been showing some real performance improvements. Not least, of course, with the boy wonder himself, Charles Leclerc. So we'll see if he can convert it to a victory tomorrow. It's going to be very tough, of course, because McLaren's race pace has been electric. They have been gapping the field by 30, 40 seconds, 20 seconds in the case of Spa. That he's going to have a real big job on to be able to actually get a win there. But it's, you know, crazy things have happened, such as Aston Martin. Now, I highlighted them in my Friday practice review, my roundup of all the action on Friday. I said they were looking really good, but you know, teams can flatter to deceive. We've seen how bad Red Bull have been on Fridays and how good they've been on Saturdays, at least in Max Verstappen's hands. And there's many teams, of course, that do good performances on Friday and then not really convert it to Saturday pace. But Aston Martin, fair play to them. That new front wing is working a treat. Fernando Alonso, despite his back pain, despite turning 44 years of age recently, the first driver since Graham Hill to be 44 years of age or older in a Grand Prix. 50 years since Graham Hill was competing. That's how long it's been since we have a driver that's as old as Fernando Alonso. Lance Stroll, a guy who of course comes under all kinds of criticism. He was excellent today, as was Alonso. P5, P6. They're on for some very strong points in the race tomorrow. So yeah, those are the 5 things that we learned from qualifying today. Absolutely incredible session. Do watch the highlights, watch the replay if you haven't, and it sets us up very nicely for a mighty Magyar Nagadich tomorrow for the Hungarian Grand Prix. Who's getting the win? My money is on Piastri personally, but I'd love to see Leclerc do it personally. But get your thoughts in the comments below. Like, share, comment, subscribe. As always, guys, have a fantastic day wherever in the world today, and we'll see you very soon.